Zach Hunter travels the globe and speaks to hundreds of thousands of people about modern-day slavery each summer.
This is a pair of shackles that they would use on a modern-day slave today, on a little child.
And he's only 16. As an ordinary high school student, he's doing extraordinary things. Zach is an abolitionist, not very different from one of his heroes, William Wilberforce. He, of course, was the great slave advocate of the 18th century. In fact, Zach was even the teen spokesperson for the Amazing Grace movie based on Wilberforce's life. Zach's also written a book called Be the Change. It inspires readers to make a difference where they are. For example, the Loose Change to Loosen Chains program. Zach started the campaign at his school to collect money for the cause of rescuing slaves. And it all began with a history lesson when he was 12.
Well, here to tell us more is one of my heroes. I know, Zach, you've said Wilberforce is one of your heroes, but I tell you, you're one of my heroes.
Thank you.
What you're doing is absolutely fantastic. How did you get started? I hear it all started with a history lesson.
Well, I was learning about modern-day slavery, 200 years ago in America, and I was thinking about how if I had lived back when all this was happening, so apparently in America, I would have done something. And then I found out that there are more than 27 million people, enslaved in the world today, and I felt like I had to do something.
What did you do? I mean, I think most people, when they hear that statistic, that 27 million people in slavery today, this isn't something 200 years ago, it's today, would say, well, I can't do anything. What got you to the point where you said, I can do something about this, I can make a difference?
I know it was God. I don't think that I would have chosen to speak in front of a lot of people about something like this. And I think God gave me, I think God instilled in everybody a sense of justice. But, I think He may have given me an especially strong sense of justice, of right and wrong.
What in the Bible got you to that point? I know you've got two Bible verses that you say these are my guidelines. What are they?
One of them is Isaiah 1:17, and I'll say it in the NIV because that's what I read usually. It's seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, and plead for the widow. And it's
similar. We got the New King James up there.
Yeah, I read that sometimes.
It starts off with learn to do good, but. What's the other one? Proverbs 31?
The other one is Proverbs 31, 8 and 9, and that's speak up and judge fairly, defend the rights of the poor and needy. In New King James, it's open your mouth for the speechless, in the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy.
Why did those two verses just jump out at you?
Especially in the Psalms verse, just because it's so poetic anyway, and I think that, it's almost inspiration for artists to use their skills and their God-given talents to end injustice. And also in Isaiah, it's prophecy. And Isaiah 61 is also one of my favorite verses, one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, because it says, it's talking about how Isaiah was appointed by God to bring the good news to the poor and the destitute. And he doesn't say, to the rich and famous. He says to the poor and destitute, the people in prison. And Jesus, in his first sermon ever, opens up the scroll of Isaiah and reads this. So not only does it apply to Isaiah, it applies to Jesus. It shows, who Jesus really came to preach the good news to.
Yeah, recovery, sight to the blind, set the captives free. And that was his first sermon. And, it's interesting to me, and I didn't intend to get into, a theological discussion, but it's interesting to me that in Isaiah, in that first chapter, it actually links our salvation to that learn to do good. Yeah. And the very next verse, verse 18, it says, come, let us reason together, though your sins be as scarlet, yet they'll be white as snow. But that's conditional on you learning to do good and speaking up for those who don't have their own ability. From your point of view, where's the greatest need right now in the issue of slavery, and what should people be doing about that?
The whole issue of modern day slavery in general. There are more than 27 million people in slavery, as I said before, and 50% of them are children, and that sort of strikes a chord with me, just because I'm a young person, and 50% of those people are under the age of 18, like I am. And so that's the biggest area of slavery that we can help in. And what we can do, we can pray for them. I believe in the power of prayer. And also we can tell other people about it, raise awareness, and give of our influence and give of our resources to organizations that actually work to abolish slavery.
You also have, loose change to loose chains. What's that? How does that work? Are you actually buying slaves and redeeming them out?
I personally don't believe in buying slaves out. It's just one of the things that I don't do.
Why?
Because I don't think it's right, first of all, to buy a human. And the people who do it, their hearts are in the right place. They want to free the slaves just like I do, just like a lot of my friends do. But first of all, I think it's wrong to buy a human, and also it feeds more money into the economy of the slave trade.
You create a market for more
Right.
slavery. So what do you do to stop it?
Yeah, the money that we send in goes to one of 4 or 5 specific organizations that actually use the money to send lawyers and investigators over to build a case against the slaveholders, and then get them put in jail and get citizenship papers for people who were born into slavery, and even try to get the restitution payment from the government.
So you're using legal means in order to prosecute the slave makers, if you will, those involved in the trade.
Right.
Is that working?
It is, yeah, it's very effective. Just first of all, because it's legal and buying slaves out isn't. Just as having slaves anywhere is illegal, it's also illegal to buy out slaves, and so it's the most effective and it's a legal way to do it.
If somebody's watching right now, and regardless if they're young or old or in between, what should they do? If they're saying, I see this, I see that, if Zach can do it, I can do it. What can they do?
Like I said before, they can pray, but especially influence, especially for young people. 1 Timothy 4:12 says, 1 Timothy 4:12 says, let no one look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in faith and purity and in good deeds. And I really like this verse because it applies not only to young people, but also to everyone. If a really young person walks into your office and says, I have this crazy dream, I want to end world hunger, will you listen to their dream, hear them out, and try to help them solve it, help them try to solve the problem, or will you try to, dump cold water on their dream? So kind of finding that balance.
You've been through that cold water, haven't you?
A couple times, but most of the people that I meet really believe in the cause like I do.
How do you overcome it? I imagine at some point in your thought process on that, you've had the realization, this is a huge task I'm undertaking. How do you get through that thought on a day-to-day basis?
I know that I can't end modern-day slavery all on my own, and I don't go about it naively like that. I believe that my generation will be the generation to end this, though. So, what I'm doing will just be a drop in the bucket, but another drop and another drop and another drop, and you have a flood. That's how a flood starts, and that's what I see happening in my generation.
Zach, I'll reiterate, you were one of my heroes. And I encourage you to get his book, Be the Change, Your Guide to Freeing Slaves and Changing the World. It's available in bookstores across the nation. It's also available online. And I encourage you to get it because you can make a difference today. And I'll say again, it's linked to our salvation. These verses about doing good and learning to do good. It's linked to our salvation. The most spiritual thing you can do is to help someone else. And if we just all agree on that and say, yeah, the problems in the world today are great, but you can make a difference. And when you stand up to make a difference, and we all do that together, then we can change the world. Zach, keep doing it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Yeah, God bless you.